Hey guys, my name is Venextron and this is the third video in the Eldritch theory. Before I begin, I just want to say all of these videos underneath this greater series are contained in a 13,000 word script. Now, originally the 13,000 word script was going to be one video, however I've broken it up into much smaller videos, and so far I think I'm doing a good job of that. However, if you want access to the full script, I will have a link to my Storyfire channel down below. Please note that you can subscribe to me using the website, but at the moment, since it's still trying to, I guess, get developed, you're going to need to use the app if you want to read anything. Just a heads up. But yeah, if you want to check out the web, if you want to check out the script, you know where to look. So, what is this video about? Well, as the title suggests, we'll be looking at Beyond Light, but because of the Eldritch theory and what it contains, we'll be looking at two things, not just one. The second thing being the motivation of the Eldritch race. Now, just a very quick disclaimer. You're going to need to understand what the Eldritch theory is to begin with, in order to understand most of what this video is going to be referencing. I will have a link, and hopefully if I can figure out how to do an annotation to that video now. I'm still trying to work on a title for it, but basically it's the video talking about what I am 90% certain is the origin and nature of the pyramids and the race inside. From now on, I'm going to be acting as if you've seen that and if you know what I'm talking about. So without further ado, let's get into it. So where to begin? I say we start where we left off in the main video. In that video, we explored and I explained to you why I believed that the race inside of the pyramid ships can have their origin traced to the ancient Egyptian civilization 3,000 to 5,000 years before Destiny 1. I believe that the Egyptian civilization was picked by the gardener to be given a golden age, except they were guinea pigs for a new type of golden age. This new type of golden age involved the singling out of a handful of individuals, and these individuals were given the light by the gardener and were the very first light wielders in existence. These light wielders were extremely powerful and were worshipped as gods by the people. However, one of them, who I believe to be Nezarec, did something, who knows what, but apparently it was really bad. And whatever they did was bad enough for the gardener or someone else to kill them in a way that they couldn't be brought back, and the gardener ditched them. Now, it remains unclear whether the pantheon of these, I guess you could say, Eldritch gods, it's unclear as to whether or not they immediately were unanimous in their decision to leave and hunt the gardener, or if there was a mini civil war in between these gods. Either way, at the end, the ones that remained were united under the leader, a god who is inspired by the ancient Egyptian god Apophis. This could be still his name, it might be something different, I don't know, but that is who he's inspired by. These gods and their followers would use their technology given to them by the gardener, and they would leave the planet hunting the traveler down. Eventually, they would be contacted unwittingly by the Moon Team during the Golden Age, and once they figured out that the traveler was there, immediately made their way there. They also would inform the winnower of this, and shortly after the pyramids arrived in our system during the collapse, the winnower himself would arrive. If you want to know everything that I know about the winnower, how he looks like this dude here and all this and the other, that was video 1, the origin and history of the darkness and the light. Link in the description below, and hopefully an annotation in the video here. The pyramids would try their best to defeat the traveler without the winnower. Instead of waiting once they entered the system, they immediately attacked the traveler on Io. However, due to the vision that the traveler gave us during the Red War, we know that they were unsuccessful, and many of them were defeated if not destroyed. The traveler would beeline it to Earth, and there, as you can see by this picture above I think it's the Dark Forest. It's the Dark Forest. I can't remember if it's the Dark or Black Forest. I think it's the Dark Forest. In what would later be the EDZ, another recorded battle, as recorded by this picture, would take place. Again, the pyramids would fail. However, they would manage to damage the traveler's time, indicated by the shard that is missing from the traveler's, hull, chassis, I don't know what you want to call it. And also the shard is, of course, in plain sight in the EDZ. It would not be until the traveler reached where it is now that it would finally be defeated. My guess is this is around roughly the time the winner would finally reach Earth. Defeated, and knowing that there was no hope of escape, the gardener would shut down the traveler and subsequently create the ghosts. The ghosts would then create the Risen. The winnower, as shown in the Unveiling Lore book, looked at the Risen differently to the pyramid ships. Now, as I said in The Origin and History of the Darkness and the Light, the winnower and the gardener have their game. They're basically dysfunctional parents over the universe. Each one believes that they know the right way in which the universe should be run. We're caught in the middle. And apart from being just driven by the instinct to kill that which is weak and the game that keeps him occupied, the winnower has a small part of a personality which could be defined as being very competitive. And he doesn't just want to win. As shown in the Unveiling Lore book, he wants to rub it in. He wants to twist the knife. And that is by having us join him. To break it down, when the gardener created the ghosts and the ghosts created the Risen, this was a proclamation. This was an announcement that these incredibly powerful beings, now this is what the gardener was basically saying, that these incredibly powerful beings with no memories, no allegiances, no moral code, she believed with no influence from the outside that these incredibly powerful beings with no experience or anything like that would choose to do the right thing, which is to create a city and protect it and strive to create a universe where all life is protected. If this happened, then the gardener's logic of how the universe should be run would be proven correctly. However, if the Risen decided to not do that, to go their own way, then the winnower's logic would be proven correctly. That only the strong will survive and that the weak will be destroyed. And the winnower knew that if this failed, the gardener would have no choice but to accept that she was wrong. This is why the winnower left, and this is why the traveler was not destroyed and the gardener, defeated completely. However, the pyramids don't have any interest in this. They don't care. Like I said, I believe that they only want Nezarec to come back. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why, but it's the only thing that makes any sense. And they need the winnower to do that. This is indicated by the fact that the pyramids have tried 2 times, as I've shown, to defeat the traveler by themselves, and they failed. They need the winnower's help. And the winnower had just left them for a reason they couldn't care less about. So, in annoyance and frustration, the pyramids left. The pyramids would, the fleet anyway, would become dormant at the edge of our galaxy, and once the traveler awoke and the light spread across the system, the pyramids immediately woke up and activated. My personal guess is it's because there are those inside of the pyramid ships that are sensitive to the light, being these gods, and so they immediately knew when the traveler woke up. The pyramid ships don't have any interest in waiting to see what decisions we make, really. They have their goal, and that is why immediately when the traveler woke up, they began their journey. However, the winnower would wait, and wait until Shadowkeep. I'm going to get into that later. Potentially, I'm going to get into that in the 4th video. So why did I tell you all of this? Well, it's to allow you to understand what the mindset is of the fleet now that it's in our system. This season has been very long, but it's given people a lot of time to think. I remember back during Season of the Worthy, we would all watch the map in the IO bunker as each week the fleet became, closer and closer to our system. And we all of us, myself included, expected something very, very spectacular to happen once, they finally arrived. If you can hear, that's my fridge, sorry. However, once the ships arrived, nothing really happened. Now, it is unclear as to whether or not the full fleet has arrived. There's a chance that they haven't arrived, and that's because they're supposed to arrive during Beyond Light. There's a chance that they're here and we don't know where they are. Either way, nothing's happened. Now, I'm going to tell you, using the Eldritch theory and what I just told you in the last 10 minutes, why they haven't done anything. It's because, first of all, they don't really have an interest in killing us all. They don't have an interest in all of that. The pyramid ships are, for the most part, singularly blamed for the collapse. However, I am under the belief that it was the Winnower who destroyed the colonies. I don't think the pyramids really had an interest in that. I think they had their goal, which was the Traveler. Apart from that, as I've already said, the pyramids know they cannot beat the Traveler. And we need to remember, the full fleet at the moment hasn't arrived. And even if the full fleet was here, or is here, the full fleet is not together. It is scattered. And as this picture here shows, even when the full fleet, even with this massive flagship that we've yet to see, even when they had all this, they were unable to defeat the Traveler. They know that they made a mistake the first time, and they're not going to make that mistake again. This is why they're taking their time. They're regrouping, and also they're reclaiming assets from Io and also from Europa. That being the Europa Pyramid. So this is why everything is taking its time with the pyramids. This is what their motivation is. So when we look at Beyond Light, we look at the pyramid ship waking up, or not waking up, but being turned on rather, being activated by the crew inside. This is as a result of the fleet entering the system and contacting it and saying, it's time. An interesting question that just came to my mind is, why would the pyramid on Europa have people inside of it and not the pyramid on the moon? I don't have an answer to that question, I just thought I'd ask it. So, when we look at Beyond Light, we now understand why the pyramids haven't done anything drastic. So why are they interested in us? When you look at my theory, it actually is really simple. They're not necessarily interested in humanity. This is rather clear in their interactions with humanity during the Golden Age, although humanity during the Golden Age was very different to the humanity of now. In this lore page that I'll have here from the Revelation lore book in Shadowkeep, a shadowy figure appeared to one of the team. I'm not too sure as to whether this was just a normal pyramid person, using magic or something like that, or if it was one of their gods using the light to project themselves. Note how Osiris can do something similar. So, it's not out of the question, this could be a light-based ability. Who knows? Either way, what we do know is that this figure looked upon this person with disdain, and I think it's fair to say that this disdain was probably shared by the rest of those in the pyramid ships. Now, why did they have disdain for humanity during the Golden Age? They were ignorant. Not only were they ignorant, but they worshipped the Traveler. Not only did they worship the Traveler, but everything strong about humanity was given by the Traveler. Let's look at humanity now. Humanity now has had to work for everything. The Traveler has given them nothing. The Traveler has said nothing and done nothing, and it is constantly criticized for that. However, apart from creating the ghosts, every major achievement humanity has made has been its own. Humanity hasn't been given anything apart from the Risen, and they weren't even given the Risen. Remember what I said in my main video. You are a Risen first and a Guardian second. They weren't given Guardians. The Guardians chose them. There are several Risen in history and probably now that would love nothing more than to kill all the humans. So, in a way, every single major achievement humanity now has made has been of their own doing. They've earned everything. They've taken everything. So they haven't necessarily offended the sword logic, which is very interesting. The second and probably the more clear point is that the Guardians, or the Risen, are made in the image of the Eldritch race's gods, being, the original Lightwielders. I would honestly compare... I'm not even monetized, but I don't want to get demonetized by it, but, I would honestly compare I would compare the Eldritch race to a certain a demographic of people that existed during the 1940s that believed that only one race was superior to the others. Except this time with the Eldritch race, their superior race is just humanity. However, their humanity. A humanity that follows the sword logic, and specifically the risen gods. When you look at the guardians of the risen, we're taller than normal humans. We're stronger than normal humans. We have the light. Not only are we created in the image of their gods, but to them we are human enough to be indoctrinated. And they know that if the guardians are indoctrinated, the people will soon follow. That is why we've been called to Europa. Now, why Europa specifically, you might ask? And again, I believe I have an answer for that. It's all because of stasis. Now, I'm not going to get into this. This is just a purely personal, opinionated point, and I could be wrong. But I'm not convinced that stasis is darkness energy. Why do I say that? Well, when you look inside the pyramid, that foggy energy, to me, that is darkness energy. When I look at stasis, it's purely an elemental energy, and it looks just like another solar or arc or void subclass. It's an element. That foggy energy is nothing we've ever seen any light wielder use. And I honestly believed when I heard the leaks about darkness subclasses that this would be what we would have. But anyway, that's just a point. It could be wrong, it could be right. I'm just saying that. But yes, stasis is why we've been called to Europa. And what does stasis have to do with the pyramids and us? Well, it has to be Eramis. Now, Eramis has been marketed as the main antagonist, but I wouldn't be fooled by that. It's similar to how during Forsaken, Aldrin and the Barons were marketed as the main antagonists, whereas it was Riven, and if we're being perfectly realistic here, it was Savathun. Eramis might be marketed the most as the biggest villain of this expansion, but do not be mistaken, it is the pyramid ship and those inside on Europa. So what is the purpose of Eramis? Well, here's an interesting thing, and I just want to remind people of this. Eramis has quote-unquote a shard of the darkness, which is a shard of a pyramid ship or a pyramid ship relic of some sort. How did she get it? How did she get that? You think the only way I can personally think of is if she went inside of a pyramid ship, or if on a pyramid structure somewhere the relic was there. However, I need to remind you that on the moon, the only way we could enter the pyramid ship, during the campaign anyway, was when we had that kind of curse breaker gear. The pyramid has a protective barrier around it, and I'm assuming Europa is no exception. So, either Eramis didn't get the shard from the pyramid, or she got it from somewhere else. But let's assume that she got it from the pyramid, because the pyramid is the biggest likelihood of where she got it from. How did she get inside? She was allowed inside. Why was she allowed inside? So she could be given the relic. Why was she given the relic? Because when you're given something, the giver has a certain amount of power over you. This is the sword logic in action. This is exactly the same reason why the Hive were bound by the appetite of their worms. This is why Oryx was only able to take once he slew Akka and took the power for himself. This is why he was able to speak to the Winnower, because everything he did to get to the Winnower, it was something he took. He wasn't given any of it. So Eramis and her people were given stasis. Okay, what does this have to do with anything? I'll be very blunt. Eramis and the Fallen with her are bait. They're complete bait. They're bait to draw us here. Why are they bait? And how do we know that they're bait to draw us here? Well, as the story trailer says, Eramis isn't just interested in staying on Europa. She says, the Great Machine will know our pain. They are, in saying that, the House of Darkness has officially become a threat to humanity. And what is the response to any real threat of humanity? The Guardians. We aren't just going to Europa because we're curious. We're going to Europa because we have to. And why do we have to go to Europa? Because if we don't, then stasis wielding Fallen are going to be knocking on the city's doors. We might be curious about the pyramids, but make no mistake, it's not really a choice that we're going to Europa. We have to go. Okay, so the pyramids have made us arrive on Europa. They've kind of forced our hand. What does it have to do with anything? Well, as we've seen, at least from Crucible gameplay, stasis seems really effective against light-wielding guardians, and I'm assuming we're going to have a really difficult time against the stasis-wielding Fallen. But we have to beat them, because if we fail, they're going to go to Earth. So what do? Well, we can't do anything. We have to sit there and listen as the pyramid talks through our ghost and talks about every time we fail, every time we die, we're going to be reminded in light there is only weakness, only death, only failure. And then, when we're fully desperate, we're going to be approached and we're going to be offered stasis. And we're going to be given stasis. And by being given stasis, we're going to now have a leash around our necks connected to the Eldritch race. So that is that part of the video done. The motivations of the pyramid people, why they're chilling on our system and why they want us on Europa, how they're going to get us on Europa, and what they're going to do once we're there. Okay, that's enough of that. Now, like the title of the video says, there are secrets that I have found. Secrets tied to my theory. So as you probably may have seen, if you haven't, don't worry about it. It's not really relevant. But Bungie showed off a trailer that had some of, hopefully not all of, but some of the exotics that are going to be coming in Beyond Light. One of them is Cloud Strike, an exotic sniper rifle. The exotic weapon perk of Cloud Strike is that precision headshots, or precision shots, will call down lightning on your targets. Now, my friend Brad found this picture here. And the picture gives a much better look at the weapon. Now, as you can see, the weapon is powered by an object that the frame of the weapon is built around. And if you look very closely, it seems to be a scepter of some kind. Now, as we know from what the trailer told us, Cloud Strike is an arc weapon that calls down lightning. So, if we know that the scepter powers a sniper rifle, it's fair to assume that the scepter is lightning powered. Now, the scepter looks ancient Egyptian in just style, and so I decided to Google search ancient Egyptian god of storms. Now, in my last video, or in the main video I should say, Apophis was called the ancient Egyptian god of storms. However, he's not the only one, and I believe this one is far more relevant. The ancient Egyptian god of storms that I found is none other than Set, and this picture here is very interesting. Very interesting. As you can see, the scepter he's wielding is almost an exact match. Not only that, but it makes sense. So what am I saying? In my main video, we talked about Apophis, we talked about Sekhmet, we talked about Mot, we talked about potentially Osiris. These ancient Egyptian names could very well be used as inspiration for the very first light wielders, these gods that the race inside the pyramid ships worship. And I believe Set could be one of them. And not only could he be one of them, but he could very well be the brother of Osiris, as he is in ancient Egyptian lore. Especially if Osiris was at one stage a god, and then once he was killed, he was brought back as a guardian. Here's something else that's very interesting. Bungie is using the term storm a lot. Gear up for the coming storm. The coming storm. This, that, and the other. And you know what's very interesting? When you look at storms and the pyramid ships. Out of all the pyramid ships that we've ever seen, not just the fleet that's on its way, but just any, even concept art, only 4 pyramid ships have a storm related to them. And those are the ones at the front of the fleet. The scouts, the ones on Mars, Mercury, Titan, and Io. Those are the only ones. And wouldn't it be interesting if the scouting party, the first ones to enter, are the first ones because the god that leads them is on Europa, the god of storms. So let's just assume that Set is who I think he is, and that he is a light wielder. Obviously a human. Well, as my theory would state, all of the Eldritch gods are a class under their own. You know, the Hunter, I believe, is inspired by the traits and abilities of Apophis. The Titan, I believe, is inspired by the traits and abilities of Sekhmet. And the Warlock is inspired by the traits and abilities of Osiris. So Set is his own powerhouse. Here's the thing though, why does he need a scepter? Or why do I even believe it's his? Well, one thing that all Risen have in common is that they use their light that they're given and they channel that into an object when fighting. I'll give you an example. Hunter's golden gun, you turn the light into a gun. Night Stalker, bow. Arc staff, staff. Sunbreaker, hammer. Dawnblade, sword. You get it, So wouldn't it make sense if a very ancient light wielder, who's human and originated from ancient Egypt, has his tool or weapon as an ancient Egyptian scepter? Not only that, but a scepter is an object of authority when wielded, If somebody holds a scepter, it's normally somebody of great importance. And if Set is going to be the main focus, because I don't think we'll be killing Apophis in this. I think Apophis is going to be around for quite a while. If Set is going to be the introduction to these gods, it makes sense that he would have a scepter, if he's worshipped as a god, so he's, But anyway, I'm rambling. I'm not using a script for this. So that is just what I wanted to say. Why am I telling you this now with Beyond Light so close to release? Well, 2 reasons. The first reason is just so you can keep an eye out, and whenever you're listening to the Pyramid Ship or those inside speaking to you, whenever you're observing anything, keep my theory in mind and the origin of what you're looking at and the motivations of those talking to you. The second thing is I don't want you to be too invested in Eramis' character. To me, anyway, it's very clear that she is a side character that is a tool. So, keep that in mind. To summarize, I've told you the motivation of the Eldritch race during the collapse, why they're back, why they've taken so long to do anything, what they're doing, why they want us to go to Europa, how they're going to get us to Europa, what they're going to do to us once there, and how that's going to lead into things. I've also told you about my theory around Set and how he could be our introduction to an Eldritch god. It could be also very interesting if he is confronted by Osiris and if he actually ends up revealing to his brother who he actually is. And that's that. Okay, that's the 3rd video. I hope you enjoyed. If you're confused, don't worry. I would honestly just rewatch the main video to try and get more context, or if you want everything, like I said, the main script is in my Storyfire channel. Please get the app. Check me out. Okay. Alright guys, take care, and I'm going to start working on the 4th video now, so whew. Busy days ahead of me. Busy days.